Welcome to the Cheryl Lynn Harvey Show. This is a podcast of numerous topics. So thanks for joining me, and let's get on with it. Hi, this is the Cheryl Lynn Harvey Show. Thank you for coming back and joining us. I'm so excited. I have a long-term friend as well as a business owner on Balboa Island with me today, Dan Miller. Say hey, Dan. Dan's in.
Hey, everybody. How are you? Cheryl, thank you so much.
Thanks for coming on. We've been trying to get this together for a long time. And as you know, if you've listened to any of my other podcasts, we started filming and doing it the right way. And then COVID came and we're doing it a different way. So we're doing a Zoom call tonight. And then our plan is to refilm and get to show you the VI. So
wonderful.
Now we're just going to talk about it and the other businesses and Dan. And he's a longtime friend. Like I said, I've called on him in the restaurant business, 15 years ago?
Cheryl, I think you've been slinging me wine per se for almost, I want to say 12, 13 years.
Yeah,
no doubt
at
about
least. It. All right. Well, tell everybody a little bit about yourself and and what's going on.
Yeah, so I'm Dan Miller. I'm one of the partners at the Village Inn restaurant, Balboa Island. I also have partnership in 501 Park Avenue, also located on Balboa Island. My wife and I and a couple of new partners opened up a restaurant in Rancho Santa Margarita called Todos Santos about 6 months before all of this goodness hit us. Painful. But I am a father of two. I've got a 7-year-old.
Oh, you have two? I didn't know you had two.
Little girl named Lila.
Oh.
And I have a son who's about 22 months old named Ethan. And Ethan has been keeping us busy, still sleeping in the bed and keeping me awake at night. So, restaurant business combined with being a good dad is a full-time times two. So anyhow, I'm having fun on all levels. We'll talk a lot about COVID, I'm sure, but there's definitely been some goods that have come out. As well as the challenges. So, I look forward to sharing those too.
Oh yeah. Well, why don't we go into that?
Well, I always like to start with the bad, but let's play in the good, because I think that may be a little dynamic. I think for me, COVID has been a little bit of a savior from an emotional and mental standpoint. It's really allowed me to reset my mentality on how the businesses are run. Obviously, so the Village Inn, we've owned and operated for 8 years. We've had 501 Park now for about 9 months, and we've had Todos Santos for about now it's coming up on about 6 months. The stability, the one thing I've noticed about the successful restaurants and my friends in the business, and I don't know how you feel about it, but I've noticed that the folks with longevity, with a great deal of trust within their communities, have really been able to pivot their operations into this takeout delivery element. It's been interesting for me because I do have in the Village Inn kind of that local stable feel. But the other two locations are challenged with being young, still developing their concept, still developing the brand. And so, that shift has been more challenging. But to bring it back to the element of positivity, we have, my family and I have been able to reconnect. I've been able to realign my thoughts. I've been able to kind of redirect my focuses in the business and, really take a step back and look at the gaps. And, so for me, as a very small operation, kind of times three, looking at the training, looking at the financial organization, looking at, how we're staffing, rethinking about how we're developing our culture, all those things have been extremely positive for me. Obviously within the scare of the financials, obviously we're not having a ton of fun going through the loan process. But this element of being able to kind of deepen our identity, I think is what I've been able to really kind of tap into.
So Dan, have you had to work on yourself at all? Like, do you stop negative thoughts and say, let's focus on making it positive. Let's focus on making it better. I mean, is that hard for you or?
I mean, I think being near the ocean is like the best metaphor because, it's like waves, right? So I go through these very positive waves of, all right, we're making some progress here. I'm reconnecting with some of my leadership, right? We're still employing people, right? So, we've got a limited staff, but they are employed. And those that are very appreciative. I will say the motivation of our crews is as high as I've ever seen, but the crew is very small and very tight. So the emotions go from, this very peaking, staying in the right direction. Let's make use of this time in a positive way, to, oh my gosh, are we going to make it? How long is this going to How long is this going to last? What are the restrictions that are coming? I think it's a daily conversation that I'm having with people. What are you thinking? What are you seeing? And I kind of chuckle at this point, going, whatever I share with you today is going to be different tomorrow. So I'm taking a lot of big, deep breaths. And yes, it's kind of like, it's just different ways. Managing my emotions has probably been the most important thing I've done. I mean, a lot of personal reflection time on how to look at this thing and just turn it and make it better. The big commitment I have with my team is, we have to come out of this better. And everybody looks at it through that lens. And I think that we are really developing some very new elements to our operations.
Wow. So, and when you get back up and running, you'll be an even tighter family than you were before.
No doubt about that. No doubt about that. And I think the systems will be a little tighter. I think, those watching that are in the business can certainly appreciate those watching that, are looking from the outside in. The systems and the flow of the organization is really the key. And, when it comes to my scale of business, which is non-corporate, a lot of the legwork, the grind work is done, by me and by my family and by those, immediately surrounding me, a very flat leadership line. We have to be in a great flow. And so the systems being there to orchestrate the operation is huge.
So tell us, Dan, if we were to come down to Balboa Island today, and I can tell you what I got at your place was delicious, was that chicken sandwich. By the way, that chicken sandwich lasted 2 meals.
Good.
I couldn't believe how big and delicious that chicken breast was. I mean,
yes, thank you.
Oh, actually, you know what I did is I took the salad. So I had the sandwich the first night and then had chicken salad for lunch the next day.
Yeah.
It's awesome. But yeah, if you're coming, you've never been there before, you're going to come down, get some food to go. Tell us a little bit about what you find when you got to the VI or to find.
Love it. Yeah, no. Well, so the Village Inn is, a huge work in progress. As far as 8 years ago, we bought a space that was historically and well known over time as a great local dive bar. I think we have tried to embrace that within the range that, it's got great core elements, but we have certainly elevated the cuisine. So we put a lot of pride into items like our prime rib dip, ultra high quality. I'm going to give a shout out to Cafe R&D, who I think has one of the finer around. And we kind of, we took that concept and we reframed it to be our own. We have a burger that I would put up against anybody's, certainly with, nice arugula, aged cheddar. We're putting some quality touches in there that I think were initially unfamiliar to people coming in, and now have become a benchmark, as you said. So, I think that real focus on the quality of our ingredients has shown, and I think that it's allowing us to deliver value in ways that the Village Inn has never before. That's not to say that we don't pour an amazing cocktail. We are doing a lot of craft beverage. If you come down, we're offering different ways to enjoy. And obviously with the ABC loosening up the laws and delivery, one of the cool parts is we can golf cart you food and beverage anytime. Nice. Certainly on the island, we're getting to you. So yeah, so the Village Inn has a really kind of dynamic ranged menu, but it's also very specific to the quality levels and making sure that value is being delivered. I love that you got to enjoy it for a couple of days.
And question, how does it work with the cocktails to go? I mean, do you literally put them in a to-go cup with ice?
We do. So yeah, so what we've done, I mean, it's gone through a kind of couple of different iterations, but at this point, if it's local enough, we'll ice it, prep it, and run it out. But the majority of the mixes, funny enough, people really tend to, I mean, can you imagine having delivered cocktails? This is unusual. And so when you pour a margarita, you mix it, you're using a good quality tequila, you're using fresh juices, and you put this thing together and you send it even without any type of ice, and people are pouring it themselves. Many are offering to have me hang out and indulge in it with them, which is great. But the other side of it being that, a great cocktail that can get delivered mixed, pre-mixed, but within a couple of minutes of being prepared, people are loving it. So it's fully covered. Of course, we're following all the laws, but I'm seeing I'm seeing a good level. Obviously, the food is still the priority, but a good level of cocktail sales as well.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I was telling Dion earlier, I drove by and your doors were open, the table was there, and there were the bottles. Like, hey, come and drink me now.
Well, I'm not averse to competition, and I think we have some fantastic neighbors that we love, and Balboa Island, for those that don't know, is continuing to elevate the dining scene. We have some new folks coming in. The Village Inn has reframed its brand around some really quality cuisine. And so, we've got to be in there. We've got to compete. And we've got to grind for our opportunities too. As much as it's a collaborative effort amongst restaurants right now to sustain and just stay alive, you're still learning. And I've got a nice motorcycle riding in my background, so this is part of the Zoom experience.
That's Balboa Island too.
Yeah, of course, part of the island experience. But I think that, just by visually being welcoming and finding different ways to entice people to, hey, come in, let's have a conversation about what we're doing.
Smart.
Yeah, and smart. So that it's still relation building, right? It's still relationship building.
Yeah, no, I laughed. I was on my phone talking to somebody, and I drove by, and I go, oh, look at that.
Gotta love it.
So, and just so everybody knows, the Village Inn is the only bar on Balboa Island.
Yes.
And is that because the law with the church, how they couldn't have any alcohol on the same street as the church?
Well, certain elements have kind of contained it. I think that it has been, in its history, I don't know how deeply it's been challenged. But for 85 years.
But hold on. What I remember was that it couldn't be on Marine Avenue.
So Marine is tight because of the church element. Yes, 100%, the 500-foot rule there. So yes, so there may be some other opportunities, and Agate, of course, being certainly further away. And I think that, frankly, I don't, the Village Inn's reputation and history, it's gone through its ups and downs. But for about 20 years there, I don't know that the resident or the city would have been considerate, but I really feel strongly that what we've done within the community, the way that things have been elevated on the food side, the service side as well, has been of huge importance. That the trust that we've built over 8 years is really starting to show through, giving us maybe a fresh opportunity to open up another location with full liquor.
Well, okay, so, and I can attest to this because I lived and grew up 3 blocks from the Village Inn. And I myself, I wasn't kicked out, but I was on numerous occasions. And the Village Inn was even when my father was a Marine.
Yes.
The place where people went from all over Southern California to get hammered.
That's right. Yeah. So it's got its social history, right? And you had, I think you're talking about like the 70s was this huge connection of, was it El Toro Air Base? What was the Marine Corps folks? And then you had a huge contingent of teachers that found their way onto island living. And so this connection, this social connection kind of came about. And I think it may have transitioned a little bit over the course of the 80s into the 90s, because I saw that 70s period in my study of the history of it as a real bringing together of community. And yes, I'm a military veteran as well, so I'm an Army vet. So I can appreciate the environments that the military members work in, and when you get some freedom, I'm not here to judge. Let's just put it that way. But the other side of it being that the Village Inn kind of just went through that phase where it was about the booze. And so I've got stories about my wife used to come down here. I still think it's okay to say it with her fake ID. And and that was part of the Village Inn culture. Was you could kind of get away with it. It was a getaway, and kind of just unnoticed. But now, I think as the microscope gets deeper and deeper, and Balboa Island is starting to really change and progress. You're seeing a lot more investment into new homes and new builds, and the cottage style feel is going through some change. I know a lot of folks miss it. I miss it. I'm an island resident as well. But at the same time, with that progress comes more eyes on. And I think we're doing the right thing to bring it through that phase. I think the first 3 years we were in operations, I couldn't get anybody to trust that we were doing good food. And so it was just about coming to have a drink and enjoy some live entertainment, which is also a component to who we are.
Right.
But nonetheless, yeah, I see us as a completely different entity with a new identity. But at the same time, I still think we've kept all the great bones.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and that's what you're right. The island has changed. I mean, all the triplexes and duplexes on the island. Nobody actually lived there. It was all, and when we bought in there in 1971, they gave discounts to all the airline pilots and stewardesses. So for
Yes.
John Wayne Airport to live there. And so most of the people that lived there and that's where they all drank.
Yeah, and that's it.
The VI, yeah. And all the pilots were drinking before they were.
Stuff you just don't want to know about, but it was a complete reality. And now the big fight is keeping the pilots, keeping the planes from going over the island, which is, man, following the local news is a real trip because, you're fighting against a lot of the progress that's happening naturally in Newport.
Yeah. Well, that's everywhere. People don't like it. They just don't. I think at 501, I don't think there should be an issue because you're right. You're not a bar. You're a fine dining establishment. And I have gone a lot to the 501 restaurant recently.
Yeah.
For some reason, we always end up there. And I think it's because I don't want to fight the crowds on Marine as much.
Yes.
But I love the outdoor patio. I love the breakfast there. I mean, I've been there a lot of times with friends, and I just think it's a fantastic vibe. I love the coffee thing when you walk in. It's just, why don't you tell us a little bit about how that was even born?
So 501, I think, I just have this undying desire to grow. And 501 kind of came about because I'd watched it. Now I'd heard the story. So 501 has its own dynamic history of being the Park Avenue Cafe.
Oh, sure.
And Park Avenue Cafe was a major hangout for the West Siders, I don't know that they like to call themselves that, but they are known. And the west side of the island kind of having a little bit of a different personality. And so Park Avenue Cafe was kind of a social hub for this side of the island. And so when the changes to the space started to happen, and that was about a 3-year process for the owner to really kind of completely reconfigure, making a contemporary look. And so 501 really, it died, as far as in 2014, 2015, and started kind of its comeback. And the owners prior to us that had Free Range Cafe, which was the name of the space prior to us coming in, really came in with a cool concept around, great chicken sandwiches. They had brought down something they felt was successful with a food truck concept, and they were really trying to bring it into a brick and mortar environment. 501 has its challenges, but the space is flat beautiful. Totally contemporary new look, really nice. I mean, the patios are just beautiful. They did some amazing things just with the technology in the space, from the lighting to the sound. So there's all these really kind of cool elements. But again, what was it lacking, and what are we trying to create is identity. And so, with 501, it's been more of a focus. It's a little bit more of a chef-driven concept. So we've got Tony Jauregui as our executive chef. He does a phenomenal job of building relationships. His cuisine is very good, but at the same time, we've had to just listen, because that old Park Avenue feel, every time we want to get a little too elevated, a little too contemporary with our concept, it kind of brings us back home into, hey, be approachable, be comfortable. So we're doing family packages out of 501 during this period to sustain. And within that, Wednesday night is Mexican night. Thursday night is meatloaf night. Friday night is pasta, and so forth. And so we're really trying to bring home what this side of the local clientele is asking for, which is great, approachable cuisine. But the coffee concept in there is phenomenal. It's a shared concept between family and within my family. We absolutely love what their group is doing. And, and then beyond that is trying to just bring back some of that old, again, what the Village Inn has in droves, some of that cultural, icon element, but still bring you something fresh and new, which, we again, before COVID-19 on this one, we were finding some ground with that really great community, engagement, but it started to really, it was picking up traction, and this one hurt, this one hurt.
Yeah. No, I saw that. And you're absolutely right about the identity of the other side of the island. I mean, if you even look at the streets, they look different over there.
Yes.
They're smaller. There's more trees. I mean, it doesn't even look like the island.
Yes. And I don't think I had any real understanding of that. We actually moved, my family and I moved one street over from 501. We live on Pearl.
Oh,
And, and I will tell you, so we've got, my mother-in-law in house, I've got my two children, I've got my wife, myself, and there's just something very comforting. Not to say that we don't love Marine Avenue and that engagement is so vital to the vibrance of the VI, but just the coziness of the
oh
west
yeah,
side of the island
yeah,
it's just very welcoming.
yeah.
So yeah, and it's
Yeah,
made
and you don't have like for us because I grew up on Park Avenue,
yes,
Park in Appalena, and
yes,
like the motorcycle sound and all the cars. Every Saturday and Sunday it was so there was a lot of noise, but it was energy. And for
yes,
me, I like the energy. It's almost like being in a big city. But you're
yep,
right, because on the other side of the island, none of that goes on.
right.
And the
Well,
Little Island too. Little Island is very much like that as well.
it does have that, and so it straddles. And so from a personality standpoint, for me, I love this. Having come from fine dining background, corporate background, small entrepreneurial restaurant background, I love the dichotomy because I can walk into the VI with one creative outlook and how we push and develop that, and I turn around and I go back into 501 and we have a completely different creative outlook. If there's one thing I love about the business, it's that the chaos is actually something that I've really come to enjoy. And so, when I get those moments where I can't figure something out, or it has to be creative, or it has to be dynamic, that's the fun. And so the two locations, if anyone were to try and pigeon the two against each other, I just laugh, because literally you have two completely different elements within a 1 mile distance. So yeah, it's been a ton of fun developing that place.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love it. I do. I mean, I recommend that for my girlfriends and I. We go to one. Yeah, I like it. So let's talk a little bit about Dan Miller. So where did you meet your wife? This is a story I haven't even heard yet.
Oh man. So, hospitality industry, right? I mean, where the story's going to start. So bottom line, wait.
You were a manager. She was a server?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, at least in this particular case, we were on equal accord, right? So the fraternization was not a part of this one. She was in sales and I was in management. And so we both had management positions at La Casa del Camino, a lovely little place with the roof deck.
I visited you there.
Certainly very popular. You definitely visited me there.
Yeah.
We definitely did some deals there. And so Jess and I got to know each other there. I will say that I was a blip on her radar, if I'm being honest. And I don't know that I cared for her much either when we first opened up, because she's a very free-spirited, outgoing, charming, very trust-building, quick, but she, Jess had learned the lesson not to be a people pleaser before we knew each other. And, I still was working through a lot of, being in this business, you got to love pleasing people. But, as you elevate, you have to realize that your vision has to become more of the priority. And so, Jess had no desire to look out for my interests as a new manager in the environment. And it frustrated the hell out of me. But, as things came along.
But you like the challenge.
Oh, are you kidding me? Of course we do. Of course we do. Of course we do. And she's beautiful. And so but I will say it kind of all came crashing in a small moment. The story certainly, I don't know that if it's good for airing, but the bottom line is that we connected and we connected on commitment. And so it was just one of those where, she wanted a life, children, and I was just in that space after a lot of years of kind of going through, just different ways of living, and obviously being ex-military. I'd moved from Rancho Mirage, in through Riverside. I'd worked my way through with PF Chang's and eventually finding myself back in Orange County. And so I think I was ready for that commitment as well. And so that's where the connection happened. And we met each other there. We were married in the Amalfi Coast in Ravello, Italy.
Oh, nice.
Super amazing. I mean, just an amazing experience. And then kind of came back home and, opened up what would have been what is our first restaurant, which we subsequently closed, Black Diamond Tavern in Big Bear. I don't know if you knew I had a Big Bear location.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
That was our first baby.
Okay.
We opened that December 31st of 2011, and we operated for 7 years. And so we actually got that it was about 4 or 5 months before we started operating the Village Inn. So we kind of came in this together. We knew what we were in for. we knew the business would have its challenges. We kind of thought we would work well together. We have, but we've shifted a bit as well. We have, obviously 2 lovely children, and, Jess is focused in on that. And the business, for what it's worth, as hard as it is, has been able to provide for us in that level too. So it's been an unbelievably welcome develop. I would say to this point, it's been a success story of the restaurant industry as far as relationships. But in that, there's a lot of deep thought, consideration, and how do we sustain each other when we're sustaining these children known as our restaurants.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like you met on a level of respect.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like instead of just lust or, ooh, she's hot or whatever. It's
yeah.
Together,
I think we found our way past that. We were in our 30s, both of us. And I think that, those elements, if it was lust, it would be more coming from me. From her, it was, well, I think this guy's solid. And so good for me. I think my timing was good for once in life. And so the connection was definitely built on respect. But I think it was that time to just make commitments to move forward with, with the relationship that was going to build.
Well, life is all about timing. I mean,
all day.
Yeah,
all day.
For sure. Well, I will tell you that when I met you at P.F. Chang's, you were always so kind to me, and
thank you.
We did work really well together. And
I've always,
times,
if there's one thing I've always, from Chinese cuisine to going to the Montage and learning American to French, to just the range of cuisines has been something that has been a developmental process for me. But the people element, the driving and the passion for growth and expansion of who we are and what we represent has always been really natural to me. And I think I've been able to carry that through 15 years. I still have a lot. I know there's a shelf life on every restaurant leader, especially in operations. But I'm not there yet. And so I'm going to keep running until I know it's time to pass those responsibilities on.
Wow. Well, you're doing a great job. And you're right. When my father was sick, all he ate was hamburgers. And when you talked about the hamburger there, and I'm like, ooh, I got to get one of those.
Come down. Come down. The food's good. The food's good. I've been saying it for 8 years. The food is really good.
It is really good. And it's funny because you said the arugula, and I remember that burger. I've had it there a few times, and it's delicious. So, yeah, okay. So tell us something about Dan Miller that you don't think anyone knows. You mentioned tonight that you were a friend. So, anything you want to share with us about who you are? Because I know we talked about this when we talked about doing the podcasts. Like, yeah, we know the VI, but we want to know Dan Miller.
Sure. Well, I mean, I've seen a lot. I guess in a relatively short period of time, I think when it comes to the last 15 years, I think that I would say that the restaurant business has in many ways saved me. I have gone through some really traumatic experiences. I would say that for people to know me, let me make it simple. I'm an introvert by nature. So if you're a psychologist, you know that I am not naturally social. And so I have had to build these wings. I've had to build these kind of marathon legs in the business to really develop that skill of building relationships. And so many people that meet me think this is just a natural core element to who I am. I do love to engage, but the bottom line is when I go home at night, I rebuild my energy from within. And I think that the more I've started to understand that, and the more that I've started to connect with that and own it, the better operator I've become, because authenticity, right? It starts to have a play on how authentic I am with people. And so I'm finding that I'm more authentic than ever. I don't know that I'm giving you really what you want, Cheryl. I've got some nitty gritty for you. If we really want to find our way there. But the bottom line is for me is that, it's been a journey. And I think that, the story has all you want for a reality TV show. I think everybody who's been in the business for a while has seen a lot. And so anyhow, this journey for me, in developing myself and also, just these completely new skill sets was something that I don't know that a lot of people would know about me at this point. I tell people when I started with PF Chang's, the leadership would call me the terracotta warrior because I was unbelievable. So they would plant me basically on the floor and I would deal and solve problems, but I could barely carry a conversation. So when I would go to guest tables, it was actually awkward. It was very uncomfortable trying to even talk about just basic things because I'd come fresh out of the military. And
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, so fresh, military straight into hospitality. So can you imagine being told what to do every day, and then coming into environments where people are just gabbing your face off, and and I'm like, this is, but I needed, I wanted to develop in it for whatever reasons. So that transition from being somebody who was a problem solver only and was very stiff and very uncomfortable to this massive transition where sometimes people tell me, you've said enough. I get you. I get what you're saying. Has been a really dramatic shift for me.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's awesome. Well, because that's when I first met you and I didn't realize you were out of the military, but that also kind of explains how gracious and,
oh, thank you.
and respectful you are to people.
Well, I became a man in the service just like many. So I have a lot of respect for that time.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're getting close to wrapping up here. So why don't you give right now COVID instructions, your address, how do they place an order? Is it online? Do they call the restaurant? Right.
So first and foremost, the safety of our team and the safety of our guest is ace number one most important. We're taking every precaution. In fact, we are looking at new and additional and innovative ways to really keep the space as sanitary as possible, all of our locations. As far as doing business with us is concerned, we welcome you in a ton of ways. You can go to our website, you can order online. We do delivery. We'll curbside at the Village Inn includes your golf cart, your bike, your car.
Nice.
At 501 Park, the exact same. Todos Santos, you'd have to take a car ride out to Rancho Santa Margarita. But we are going to offer it to you in every way that we can. We're definitely here to stay. We're making adjustments as we need to, but the restaurants are open and available. Right now, 501 Park, Wednesday through Sunday. We're doing the family packages. People have been loving it. And the Village Inn right now is open every day from 12 to 8. We are still doing virtual bingo and virtual live prize trivia. If you don't know about this, you are missing out.
No, I don't.
Bingo. So right now I'm missing our bingo session which I usually have with my daughter, and because it's so fun. We're having 30, 40, 50 people show up virtually.
Wow.
We're giving away prizes, $30 gift cards, giveaways. We send, when people come on from New York, Texas, Canada, we're sending care packages if they win. So we've been sending people TP and water and whatever they need. It's just been keeping it fun. Live prize trivia on Tuesday. We're doing it virtually. It has grown a ton of traction. So the Village Inn continues to kind of, in my opinion, lead the way as far as, just transitioning. And I've been very proud.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you are still selling the toilet paper with the takeout food?
Well, as people need it, I just had somebody come in the other day and go, my parents can't get any toilet paper in San Francisco. I said, here's a case, and so we're selling it. There's no profit involved. It's just a bottom line exchange.
Yeah.
And she shipped it up there and we couldn't have been happier. And this was literally within the last week. So,
that's awesome.
Whatever we can do,
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close. And thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, we're going to get it put online as soon as possible. And then that way your customers that are used to coming and saying, hey, to you can see you this way.
Okay.
And then
we really appreciate you continuing to do this in the new format. I know it took us a while to get this together. Appreciate your persistence. And I look forward to seeing you down at the Village Inn as well.
Yes. Come on down to the Village Inn and 501 Park Avenue, everybody.
Thanks,
Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.